of the Human Relations Commission of the City of Palo Alto. Before we begin today, I'd like for us to just take, since we do care about humanity, as we watch what is happening in Israel and Gaza, we know that there are individuals on both sides of conflict that have been impacted in our community. So particularly as the Human Relations Commission, we need to look for opportunities to support diverse communities during this difficult time. So in my tradition, we say thoughts and prayers. However you phrase it, I would encourage us to get around those in our community that need our support. Thank you. All right, let's do roll call.
Vice Chair Eberly. Here. Commissioner Causey. Here. Commissioner Shea. Here. Commissioner Kraus. Commissioner Savage. Chair Smith.
Present. Do we have quorum?
Commissioner Stimler. Here. Yes, we do.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, Commissioner Stimler. For the last 6 years, I used to always be the last one. So, thank you. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. At this time, we have public comment. This is open to anyone in the public that would like to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda. Staff, do we have anybody that would like to make public comment?
We have 2 hands raised at this point, Chair.
Please go ahead, staff.
Hold on 1 second. I think I might need to be put to the. There we go. Thank you, Elena. So the first speaker is Gayatri. Gayatri, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hi, just to make sure I'm raising my hand at the right time, is on the agenda in terms of the mission for CAS protections, is that, or can I speak now?
You can speak.
Okay, well, thank you so much. My name is Gayatri. I'm just here to give testimony just in terms of establishing I'm here with the California Caste Equity Coalition, and I'm just here to testify that, you know, as I'm sure many of you have heard in the news cycle over the past several months, that caste exists, and I'm sure you've seen the extreme civil rights repression that has occurred around it, and just, you know, calling as a dominant caste Hindu, you know, lots of family in California. You know, I've seen the ways in which the dominant caste community kind of jumps to identify people's caste locations and, you know, excludes them from things like promotions and housing, which, you know, the community has the power to do because they constitute majority immigrant community and have strong networks. And I'm sure you've seen the claims that caste is not an issue, although, you know, we see these practices commonly. So hoping that to have it's impactful discussion around the issue and to combat this repression, I propose the importance of working with the Stanford Center on South Asian Studies and the National Association of Social Workers, as well as the Asian Law Caucus, you know, bringing together scholars, social workers, civil rights advocates to develop important forums to address the seriousness of the concerns of caste discrimination without furthering harm, and to center caste oppressed people, many of whom have spoken out kind of over the course of several months about their experiences and the importance of protections. So thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ben Mosey. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Thenmori Soundarajan. I'm actually a fellow at Stanford Center for South Asian Studies, and I am really glad to be able to speak to the committee today because caste discrimination is a very serious issue in the city. I've experienced it directly in the city of Palo Alto and on the campus of Stanford. And I think this is one of the reasons why I really want to urge the commission to take on this issue of caste, but to do so in a way that's both complex and understanding of the nuance that's required related to global caste systems systems and the discriminations that follow. Because caste is not just a cultural or personal identity, but it's actually many different kinds of global systems of oppression that have been entrenched for thousands of years in many parts of the world. And, Black journalist and scholar Isabel Wilkerson wrote about this in her book, Caste. And you find caste systems found in many parts of the world, including the Pahrc of Japan, the Pekong of Korea, the Romani people in Europe, and of course the Dalits of South Asia. And it's here in this city as well. And in our work in Equality Labs, we have found 1 in 3 face educational discrimination, 1 in 4 face physical and verbal violence, and 2 out of 3 face workplace discrimination. And this research is also backed by thousands of testimonies that have come in around the state because of the bill SB 403, as well as really crucial reporting in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Cal Matters, NPR, CNN, NBC, and as well as testimonies that have been gathered by the Stanford Center for South Asian Studies. So we ask if the Human Relations Committee is going to take on any discussion related to caste, that it does so with a careful process co-designed with the Stanford Center of South Asian Studies, as well as with the National Association of Social Work and the South Asian Bar Association. Because when you have scholars, social workers, and civil rights lawyers and caste-oppressed organizations at the table, we can ensure a competent process that is led by the oppressed, but also one that ensures safety, compassion, and empathy, and also ensures that there's no further harm that occurs to caste-oppressed people when they are already facing discrimination in the city. And I want to emphasize how important a co-design process is before entering into any public discourse around caste, because as we experienced in other municipal meetings, oftentimes there will be a direct attempt to diminish, gaslight, or outright target civil rights leaders for talking about this issue. So we urge the committee to do this safely.
Thank you so much. Staff?
The next speaker is Anas. Go ahead, please. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm really, lucky that to give this testimony. I am a member of the Coalition for Caste Justice in California. Caste is a reality, and it is a serious violation of human rights. To have a meaningful discussion on this issue, we need to collaborate with the Stanford Center on South Asian Studies and the National Association of Social Workers, as well as the Asian Law Caucus. They can bring together experts, practitioners, advocates, and activists who can create a safe space to address the urgent concerns of caste discrimination without causing further harm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next.
The next speaker is Sana. Sana, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, great. Respected Commission on Human Relations, good evening. I'm glad to be here with everyone this evening. I'm also with the California Caste Equity Coalition. And when I think about the role of the Human Relations Commission in the life of the city, ascertaining, examining, learning, and collaboratively leading a path forward on issues that are nuanced and require thoughtfulness that can't be sabotaged, or be any risk of being sabotaged due to the gravity of the matter, this commission is what comes to mind. So thank you for your service. And at the core of these types of nuanced issues, there is no other issue more pertinent to the foundations of injustice in our world today than what caste represents, and that is in many parts of the world, but a nuanced understanding of that is critical in order to create a safe space where civil rights advocates and activists and intellectuals who have examined these issues, such as the Stanford South Asian Studies Center, Center on South Asian Studies, the Asian Law Caucus are involved in a process of understanding and cultivating a space where there's greater understanding, and the voices of the most marginalized are not put at risk of further harm. And I implore you to please take this, the task of understanding what is required to understand caste seriously, as it is a major part of our lives that we cannot escape for even a moment. So thank you very much.
The next speaker is listed as Samsung, so go ahead, please.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can, go ahead, please.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for your time today, everyone. Good evening. I'm here as a member of the California Coalition for Caste Equity. Caste-based discrimination occurs across industries, including technology, education, construction, restaurants, domestic work, which I have very big examples in my own house, medicine, and more. Caste discrimination includes bullying, harassment, bias, wage theft. There are so many people who are not paid their wage just because they belong to lower caste, sexual harassment, housing discrimination, and hate crimes. Caste hierarchies are found worldwide, which is why the UN Convention on Racism and Discrimination recognizes caste as a form of racial exclusion. In order to facilitate a dialogue about caste in an equitable, safe setting, it's integral that the Human Relations Commission work with lawyers and civil rights advocates such as Stanford Center on South Asian Studies and the Asian Law Caucus. We hope the Commission understands the accord with which this must be handled. Again, my humble request is please take this issue as a serious issue and provide us the protection that we need. Being in this country, we live in the democratic country and we need our rights. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We have one more hand raised, Chair. It is BAWS. So go ahead, please. Hold on, please.
Thank you
Go
so
ahead.
much. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Singh. I'm also a member of Coalition California for Caste Equity. And as
Oops. Sorry, we had a technical difficulty. Doctor, I will put you back on right now. You should be able to, if you unmute on your side.
unmute. Okay, I hope it works this time.
Yes, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, thank you so much, actually. So thank you so much, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience about caste discrimination as a member of Coalition for California for Caste Equity. Caste discrimination is definitely, as my other colleagues have mentioned, it's a serious issue which was unintentionally ignored or hidden by dominant caste people to maintain their status quo of prejudice position. It exists, as one of my colleagues said, in different parts of the world, in Japan, and in South Asia, in South America, and across different religions as far as South Asian context is concerned. And now caste oppressed people have joined hands together, and we as Senate Bill SB 403, it was first time in the history of California, caste discrimination was brought to the limelight in front of Californians and the whole world. And I'm not going to talk about my personal story because I hear a lot of stories, especially my friend who lives in exactly in the heart of Stanford. In the university, his daughter was she went to the college there 2 years back, and she was targeted when she opened that she belonged to the oppressed caste, and she faced a lot of bullying, and there was investigation that was carried on, but there was no solution to it. And she identified herself as a queer group, as a queer person also. So she was discriminated. I would say, like, she was literally coming home multiple times, crying, talking to the parents, say that we need to find some solution to this problem. They are harassing me as a queer person. They're harassing me as a caste oppressed person. I don't want to live in this place. So she left Stanford. She's no more working in Stanford. So we urge the city of Palo Alto to engage all the organizations who are engaged in civil rights and South American Bar Association and civil rights organizations such as Equality Lab, whenever there's discussion about how to make a safe platform as far as caste discrimination is concerned, and to promote zero tolerance policy against any sort of discrimination, may it be caste discrimination or any discrimination. So we humbly request to engage the responsible organizations and people from caste oppressed communities so we can build a common safe platform and grow in California. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank
Next.
you. Okay, Kavya, I have given you permission to talk. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I wanted to begin by introducing myself. I'm a concerned citizen and a member of the California Coalition for Caste Equity. I'm also a student at Stanford University, and I was raised in a Hindu household. I am strongly urging the committee to address caste discrimination in Palo Alto. Caste systems are deeply rooted forms of oppression worldwide. They affect communities across the world, and their presence in the city highlights the urgent need for change. Data in our stories of caste discrimination emphasize the issue's gravity. Research at Equality Lab paints a concerning picture. 1 in 4 face violence, 1 in 3 endure education discrimination, and 2 in 3 face workplace bias, all due to caste. To tackle this, we propose the committee take a careful approach co-designed with Stanford's Center for South Asian Studies, the National Association of Social Work, and the South Asian Bar Association. It is also crucial to center caste-oppressed people. Together, we can build empathy and end caste discrimination. I know from firsthand that I've seen several instances of caste discrimination occurring at Stanford University, whether that occurs in the educational spaces from both professors and other students, whether it occurs in housing spaces where they face discrimination, or whether it affects them in social spaces where they are often excluded from social opportunities available to other students. Together, we can build empathy and end caste discrimination. We urge the Commission to support human rights and the most vulnerable in the city and work to hold a hearing towards a recommendation to address caste discrimination. My name is Kavya, and I was very happy to provide the statement.
Thank you. Our last speaker, I believe, is Ramesh. Go ahead, Ramesh. You have 3 minutes. Ooh, hold on. There you go. I think you need to unmute on your end, Ramesh.
Oh, good evening. My name is Ramesh Timan, and thank you for allowing me to talk on this subject. Caste system is really one of the oldest way of discriminating against people who are depressed. They need help. They need equality. They need the same social status. So I hope and I request the Commission looks at it and makes sure that there's no caste discrimination allowed. Even though there was a bill presented as SB 403, which was passed by major majority by the Senate and other people, assembly members, but our governor said it was not necessary because it's already covered in the law, California law. So I hope this commission looks at this discrimination and passes laws and protects the people, students, everybody against discrimination. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank. Frank, go ahead, please. Hold on 1 second while we reboot the timer. Go ahead, Frank. Frank, I think you need to mute on your end.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, so my name is Frank Nunez. I'm a white technologist business owner in Palo Alto, and I have seen, actually going back almost 2 decades, various kinds of conflict within the South Asian business folks that I deal with are employees as well. And I think that this is not a new problem here for us in the Valley. And I'd like to see something done about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Are we done with public comment?
I don't see any other raised hands, so public comment time is closed, Chair.
Thank you so much. Since we had a very strong contingency talking about CAST, I will say I had comments I was going to do in my commissioner report. I will do now. The Human Relations Commission asked me to go and do some research and talk to some people about the issue of caste. And my recommendation, particularly since Southeast Asia, according to our research, is the second largest group in the city of Palo Alto and in the grouping of Asians. And this is a significant issue. We will bring back a well-studied, thought out, and put together community study group to talk more about caste. I know there were several mentions of the South. What did they say? The center at Stanford that deals with this. Let me not say it wrong. I'm just gonna say South Asian Studies Center at Stanford. I hope I was right. Okay. So we will definitely we will definitely reach out to them and others in the community, and we'll have a conversation around that. All right. So thank you for your time on the public comments. All right. Do we have any agenda changes, additions, and deletions? Okay. I'd like to take a motion on the minutes.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes from last meeting,
We have
Thursday, September 14th.
We have a motion by the vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
We have a second by Commissioner Stemler. That's a problem. All right. We will do votes from the top of the alphabet. Commissioner Fuzzy?
Aye.
Commissioner Shea?
Aye.
Commissioner Eberly?
Aye.
I messed it up. Chair Smith? Aye. Commissioner Stemler?
Aye.
We have them. Okay. I'm excited about this. I've read the presentation. It's very thorough. We're going to get a presentation of the results from the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander lived experience survey and the community listening session. I will turn it over to the commissioner, the vice chair, and the two commissioners to present.
Great. Thank you. I want to thank my fellow commissioners who helped pull this together, Commissioner Eberly and Commissioner Shea, as well as the City Council who directed us to really look into and understand the experiences of our Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander populations. It is a very large population within Palo Alto, and one which we were really excited to learn more about how these residents may have different experiences or different needs than other residents. So we did do a survey, and I want to especially give my hugest thanks to the 100 Palo Alto residents who took the time to give us their feedback, to really share their lived experiences with us, because in doing that, they really helped us to understand where the needs were for this community. And with that, I'll dive into the next slide. So we ran the survey between May and July of this year, and we spread out the word using word of mouth, social media posts, flyers, city e-news, community groups and events. And we did get actually over 100 responses to the survey, including some that were in Chinese and were translated for us. We will review the results of the survey with folks today, and we're hoping that we will have some members of the community who may speak up in public comments about whether or not they find that these results were representative, or if they have anything they would like to add. So if you're listening online, please know that there will be a moment for public comment and discussion around these results. We would love to hear more from you. And with that, let's just talk a little bit about what is our Asian population like here in Palo Alto. About 36% of Palo Alto identifies as, 35% of Palo Alto is Asian. The large majority of Asian residents are Chinese. Almost 21% of Palo Alto residents are of Chinese descent, followed by Indians at 6.2%, Koreans at 3.5%. We also have other Asian ethnicities represented: Japanese, Filipino, Vietnamese. Native Hawaiians were less than 0.1% of our population. And similarly, Pacific Islanders and Samoans, similarly small populations within our community, but they were represented among those who took our survey. So we have some comments there as well. All right, moving on. Our Asian population in Palo Alto has been growing according to the US Census. In 2014, about 30% of Palo Alto was Asian, and now we are at about 35% of Palo Alto. So it's a growing population within our community as well, which is part of the reason we were actually very interested to hear and learn more about their lived experiences here in Palo Alto. We asked within the survey, what should we really know about your experiences as an AA and HPI individual in Palo Alto? And the great news here is that the very first most common response we got within the survey was, thank you, I love it here, what a great place to live, it's beautiful. So that was great to see, just the positivity and the gratitude with which many of our residents were speaking about their experiences of living in this city. The second most common was the need for greater visibility within and civic representation, followed by more negative experiences of racism and discrimination. A call out for the need to recognize the real diversity within this population, and finally, some cultural tensions within the school district. I'm going to dive into each of these sentiments a bit more, in a bit more detail. So next slide, please. So the first thing we did here was this expression of appreciation and gratitude with comments like, it's great, I love the diversity, overall it's great, enjoy being part of the community, and feeling a sense of comfort and inclusion within Palo Alto. So that was really great to see that that was the most common response we got from this question. Moving on, the second call out we heard was really the need for greater visibility and civic representation of Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander cultures, including greater representation within city government, within community resources, such as books, having books in other languages, greater representation within community events, and finally, greater representation within our staff, teachers, and libraries within the city. Some representative comments include folks saying that there wasn't enough representation in the government, that they would love to have more local leaders represent our community, and that when a community where 35% of residents have Asian descent, 35% of our city events are not related to Asian heritage. So those were some of the types of comments we heard when people asked for greater visibility for our AA and HPI community. Moving on to the third theme we heard, these were people who actually talked about specific instances of racism or discrimination, folks who had seen racist attitudes or mentioned specific events that were either recent or past. For example, we heard from one respondent that racism against Asians is still a reality in Palo Alto. There was someone who mentioned specific racism against Chinese immigrants. There was a need there was a sense that sometimes particular Asian communities were seen as the help or second-class citizens. And finally, there was the sense that there were still some ethnic prejudices, and that there were specific instances that people recalled in their personal lives or that they had heard had happened within the community. And I really was grateful for these comments, which were less about just the gratitude and great things about the community, but that people were willing to share these very personal experiences of times when they felt that as Asians, Native Hawaiians, or Pacific Islanders in our community, that they had experienced racism here in Palo Alto. The next theme we saw was the need for a greater recognition of diversity within Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander cultures. So especially, I think, because our survey lumped so many different heritages and communities within one giant survey, a lot of the feedback we got was actually sometimes about the survey itself, or just saying that, hey, you know, there's a lot of diversity within this big chunk of the residents that you've lumped together within survey. And our residents asked us to suggest, in one case, someone even said the term NHPI itself was offensive to them, even though they were willing to give us feedback. The fact that we had lumped so many cultures within that broad category suggested that this was a more homogenous group than it was in reality. And so there was a real ask here for us as the commission more broadly, that we really recognize the diversity within Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities. And then the fifth theme that we heard was about cultural tensions within PAUSD. In some cases, people felt that there was some challenges around different parenting styles that varied between Asian communities and non-Asian communities, and that STEM education was also a source of conflict sometimes within the Palo Alto USD curriculum. So those were the top themes that we heard when we asked our residents about their experiences here in our community. We did hear some very specific requests within these comments, and we kind of lumped them within 4 different ways in which we could address the needs of Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander residents. The first is greater representation within city government boards, commission, and staff. The second is the need for greater attention to Asian-centered cultural events. The third was for more multilingual or multicultural library and other resources. And similarly, a need for multilingual wayfaring signage. And finally, this was a recommendation from the ad hoc committee, was that we could actually do a lot more to understand the needs of this community. We run a very large survey as the city of Palo Alto, and we were wondering if perhaps we could actually look at the results of that survey by race within our community, so that we could really have a broader swath and an understanding of how the priorities of our Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander residents feel compared to those of residents who are not a part of that community. So that was sort of our next big step, will be to look at those results. I think we will be getting them probably by the end of the year, and we can use those results combined with the results of our own survey to understand more deeply what the needs of these communities are. And finally, I think that's all we really need to cover right now, but we can get into additional findings if folks would like. I think that the survey will be posted along with, it's in the agenda, right? So if folks want.
It's already posted.
Yes, if folks want to see the slides themselves or the additional findings, they can find it there in the HRC website.
I want to say thank you. That's absolutely spectacular work. Thank you for this very thorough report. I will share some backroom stuff. They actually were like, we're not all the way done yet. They're going to get the community survey, and there's going to be more of a deeper dive there. But I felt like what I had heard in bits and pieces, that this was important to bring forward and have this moment. The second piece of this is we are going to open to a different kind of public comment. We're asking, we're going to give 5 minutes. Is that correct, staff? 5 minutes for anyone that wants to share on their experience, because we wanted to get it on the public record. It is open. If you are in the room and you want to use this time to specifically talk about the lived experience of this community, you can fill out a card, or if we have anybody online, you can raise your hand. I'll give it a minute. I can't see, so I don't know. If you're online and you'd like to raise your hand, you can also raise your hand to be put in the queue for public comments.
Thanks. Hey, my name is Rowena Chu. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you. I was asked to come here and talk about my lived experience as an Asian person living in Palo Alto. I want to preface my comments by saying that I grew up as a British-born Chinese person. So for me and my parents and my sister growing up in the UK, we were often in situations where we were the only Asian person at school or in the supermarket or doctor's office or at the hospital. So I want to say that my experiences as a child in the UK as an Asian were very different from how I felt when I moved to Palo Alto 14 years ago. On the whole, I would say that living as an Asian in Palo Alto is very eye-opening for me because my children can get to go to schools where there are people of many different Asian backgrounds. They once asked me, when I mentioned that I was bullied in school, they said to me, "Why were you bullied in school?" And I said, "Well, because I'm an Asian person." And they looked at me and they said, "Yes, but why were you bullied in school?" So I think that because, at least at elementary stage, because my children go to school with many children of Asian backgrounds, I think at this stage, they haven't noticed their Asianness or they don't feel excluded, which I think is a good thing. But I came here to say that in spite of the fact that I think ostensibly on the surface, there are many people of different Asian backgrounds living in this city, and ostensibly we are accepted and we all get along. I think that there are nonetheless ripples underneath the surface that concern me. So whilst racism is not as obvious as it was when I was a kid, I don't get kicked at or spat on in the street, not so far. I think that there are various issues that are somewhat concerning, and some of them came up in the survey already and have been eloquently put by my fellow citizens. I did want to mention that I in particular feel that the debates around multivariable calculus, now that I now have a freshman in high school, are particularly sensitive. I don't know that this is a forum to go into it in much detail because I think it's a very complicated issue, but it is something that I've been keeping an eye on and talking to other citizens, and I wanted to raise that publicly. Thank you.
Staff, do we have anyone else?
We have no more hands raised, so.
Commissioners, do you?
Chair, there is one more gentleman.
Thank you.
You can fill up. Just, I think the microphone's off, but wait till my colleague.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Andrew Chang. I'm a grandfather, and I have raised 2 girls in the Palo Alto School District. And also now we have 4 grandsons. And I noticed in the survey, there's nobody under 12. You didn't ask any questions about people under 12. And I think that's important. Important because as an immigrant from many years ago, I came to this country in 1965. I grew up in Hong Kong. So I have a pretty good, when I was 19 years old when I came. And I got pretty assimilated into the American society. And my kids grew up as Americans. And they don't quite just identify themselves as Chinese American. They think about themselves as Americans. My grandkids, unfortunately, they don't want to have anything to do with Chinese. For whatever reason, I'm not quite sure why. And it will be interesting to find out why the little kids think that way. And why I think it will be helpful to understand from them why they think that way. Now, I can make some guesses. And the guesses are, when my kids were growing up, I was very active in as a volunteer principal in a Chinese language school. And then I volunteered as a teacher there as well. I was also on the board. And because of that, my 2 girls have no choice but join in the classes. The classes, by the way, takes place in Friday afternoons, I mean, after school. So from 7 to 7 to 10. 7 to 9, sorry, from 7 to 9. And it's very hard for them because a lot of their friends get to play on Friday evenings. They go to parties and so on. So for them, they can't go because of their school. And then they will complain to me, and I said, look, I'm here too. I'm with you. I'm spending all the time with you, and I'm doing whatever. So they accepted that. And they then later on, when they went to college, they actually selected Chinese as a elective language to go to college. They both of them spent a summer in Beijing, right, to the point where they can speak and write in Chinese. And that's quite a few years ago. Now, fast forward to the grandchildren now. When they were very little, my daughters tried to get them to go to Chinese school. And they try, and they resist, and then the boys resist and resist. So finally, they just gave up and said it's too much effort. And like I said, I don't quite know exactly why. Maybe there's just too much else going on, and maybe they feel that they don't quite belong to the community group that's Asian Americans. They feel that they really want to be disassociated with the group so that they won't be looked upon as you're this minority group. I just don't know, but I would really like to know why these people think that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great perspective. Commissioners, well, most of y'all did the report. Do we have one more? Yes, come please. Did you have a chance to fill out the card?
I will.
Okay, yes.
She will, but let me say, she'll introduce herself, but she is responsible for getting most of the surveys that came back from Chinese elders.
Well, first of all, thank you, whoever you are.
Thank you. My name is Pinky Feng. Actually, real name is Kai Ying Feng, and I work at Avenidas Chinese Community Center, ACCC, established in 2018. We actually, back then, we see the needs of the community, that how much we need in the community to support our community. In the past 5 years, we expand our program from 1 activity to 5 days a week program. Minka, you probably know that there's so many in and out caregivers dropping off their grandparents to join the activities. We provide bilingual program at Kapoli location, which located at Building H, Room 5. Such a very small space, but it's filled with happiness and joy. And we serve everyone over 50, doesn't matter they speak Chinese or not. And here we have also Andrew here, my team here, that we're really thankful that have all of your support in providing the survey result. Very encouraging for our community to move forward, to have continuous partnership, for more continued partnership along with other nonprofit agency and also City of Palo Alto. As you can see, also our board member, Andrew, also being here today. Thank you, Andrew, for driving over. And also want to say special thank you for the survey result. And this is, again, I repeat myself, it's very encouraging we can do more for our society. Something on the side that we also want to let you know that we're not only serving senior 50, well, seniors, not senior, 50 and over is continuous learning program. And providing Chinese learning in America, learning Chinese in America, we serve a lot of American-born Chinese. We also serve a lot of folks who used to teach or work overseas, and they actually being Caucasian and able to speak in Mandarin or Cantonese as well. And we really see a lot of American-born Chinese trying to find the space to identify who they are and also identify the culture. It's very important to understanding your neighbor culture and also respect to each other and providing a more beautiful society for City of Palo Alto and beyond that. So thank you so much for having me here and speak to every one of you. Thank you, Mary, for putting this together. Thank you, Minka. And thank you, every one of you. Thanks.
Minka, like to say your name again?
Kai Ying Feng, Pinky. Pinky. Yes.
Ma'am. I just don't, people butchered my name all of my life, so I really try to get people's names right. That's why I ask, because I just really want to make sure. Minka, can I bump her to a panelist level so I can ask a question? I know it's not public comment, right?
I think that's fine. The commission has the ability to do that. Go ahead.
Okay. As a provider for this community, if you can just give me one area that you think the city could do so much better in, and one opportunity that the city has at this community, it would start helping me crystallize more, because culturally, I don't have any reference points. So I just want to make sure I can hear and listen and absorb.
We also listen from the Pahrc, so the survey actually really show what I see too. So I really feel very related. That's why I speak today.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Andrew?
Can I add one thing since it's now a panel? Can I add something?
Yes,
I
go.
do want to say that one common theme, I didn't quite put it up to the level of, because it was very specific, but we actually heard many times in the survey that the ACC was one of the favorite things that people in the survey felt about being part of this community. So it really does make a huge difference. So thank you.
For me, I work full-time at ACCC and building that program from ground zero 5 years ago. And we really see the need increasing and people hungry for learning more. And of course, because of all of our wonderful volunteer and also our board being supporting, and it's really building a stronger community. And thank you so much for highlighting that.
And how many people are you serving at this point?
So you mean putting, for example, a quarter, it depends on any other cultural events. We just have the Dragon Boat Festival, and also a Moon Festival. We serve about 400 people. But it's also because of the cultural events related, and that's draw a lot of other family caregivers and family neighbors and all come join us. And we're trying to do more intergeneration, what Andrew mentioned earlier. We need to encourage our younger generation to learn about more culture too. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Andrew?
May I,
Yes.
may I add to what I just said? I intentionally leave out a particular point, and because I thought that Pinky would cover that, but she didn't. So anyway, the reason, first I want to correct one thing that she said. She said that, for example, there's a learning Chinese in America, which is not true. This is not the name of the course. The name of the class is Learning Chinese Culture in America.
Okay.
And I happen to be a volunteer teacher. So you can come to the class, you don't need to learn anything about Chinese, there's no exam for either written or oral Chinese, okay? It's understanding the culture. So when we understand each other, whoever you are, with different backgrounds and so on, when we understand each other, we become friends. We don't look at each other as different and potentially be adversaries. Okay? So I think that's very important. All right, the point that I thought Pinky would have missed, that would have covered but didn't cover, is this. ACCC, the Avenidas Chinese Community Center, serves a population of any 50 years or older. Okay, so what happened to all those 50 or younger? I mean, right? And being of ethnic Chinese and from Chinese origin, I can tell you that most Chinese of my generation and even my daughter's generation are very family-centric. We care very much for our families. We want to include our families in our activities. So I'm always torn when I spend time with ACCC, teaching the different classes and teaching Tai Chi and teaching Baoduanjing exercise, and then teaching the learning Chinese culture in America. I'm spending I'm 78 years old, by the way. No, in 2 more days, I'll be 70 years old. So I am advancing in my age, and realistically speaking, I don't have too many years left in my life. Yet I'm spending all my time serving the senior community, and just doesn't feel right. I think that I should be spending more time to the younger generation, which would then benefit even more, with more lives to benefit, more time to benefit. The senior community, I hate to say it, okay, particularly those in the 80s and even more than 80s, how many years realistically can they expect to live? And if they learn the Chinese culture, if they learn the Pahrc genetic exercise, if they learn the Tai Chi exercise, how many years are they going to benefit from that? It's important. It's important for sure. They really needed it because every one of them tell me they want to be able to have better balance. They don't want to fall. And if they fall, they don't want to get injured. I'm trying my best to teach them that, how to walk properly, how to keep your balance and so on. But in many other cultures, very interesting to hear all these stories. Why is there dragon boat? Why is there the moon festival? What are the folklore and stories behind that? Okay, that's fine. But the little kids are the ones that really need to know. We need to understand what's going on. And the city of Palo Alto is giving money to the Avenidas to support the senior facility. But I don't see city of Palo Alto giving money to some group that's supporting younger kids for this kind of purpose. Right? So I want to urge you to think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we have no more public comment. I'd like to thank everyone that shared. I would like, council member, do you have anything to add? You always say good stuff.
I want to acknowledge how hard it was to get a good number of responses and thank Pinky for your efforts to ensure that others in the community were represented, and I've just been enjoying listening and learning tonight. I was struck, Commissioner Stimler, by one of the slides you didn't share, which was after the comments, after additional findings, sorry. It was a question on where were the most common places to find community? And the most common answer was family members, which is sort of inherently not finding community in community. And the second highest was school-based groups, and then neighbors, and then civic group or clubs, other, and then the faith community. And I just looked at that slide and felt we have so much work to do as a city to help everybody feel a sense of community out in the community. And, we have this amazing neighborhood structure with Palo Alto Neighborhoods, and I know they are continually interested in how do we bring more people in. And we have this survey that's suggesting folks aren't connected. Well, who knows? Maybe that's what neighbors means. Anyway, I just think there's so much more to dive into, and I'm really grateful that you all did this work, and really appreciate members of the public who came and provided further detail about your lived experience. And I actually did have a question. I've already just emailed the Avenidas Chinese Community Center with a question about your course on the culture of the Chinese culture. So I have a question, which is, how often is that course held? And I'd like to promote it in my newsletter. So do we know?
We can go to the class. We
should go to the class.
NHRC should take the class together. Mm.
And the student ranges from ABCs, Chinese, white that no background in Chinese, outside of the country, immigrated at some point in time. And in fact, 3 of my high school classmates are in my class. High school classmates from Hong Kong are in my class. And I have to keep them interested because it is something that they already know. Most of the stuff I talk about, they already know. But I have to keep them interested as well. Then I have to keep other people who have no background at all interested in the same topic. And okay, so it's quite a challenge there. But so far I managed.
So what Pinky said is she could email the flyer to me and I could pass it on to the commission.
Thank you so much. We'll start with commissioner comments. Commissioner Shea.
Yes, I just wanted to thank every member of the AANHPI community in Palo Alto who set aside time in their daily lives to participate in the survey, especially those who made public comment. And we appreciate your time and intention to share your thoughts and feelings with us.
Vice Chair.
I feel the same way as Commissioner Shea. We're also very thankful for everybody that took the time to respond to the survey and come and speak up with us. I will say, I know we were a little bit upset. We were hoping for more responses, but just the other day I took the traffic survey and there were, well, at that time, I think there was about 133 respondents, and I've seen that survey everywhere. So then I felt pretty good about our response rate. I think it's hard to get a lot of people to respond to these surveys. Anyway, so I want the new commissioners to feel good about, the effort we put into trying to recruit people to answer the survey. Thank you, Pinky, for getting so many responses. I do like the idea of getting younger kids to do the survey. I know that maybe that's something that we can work on. I know that there are several after-school Chinese programs that maybe we can get them the survey.
I did drop it off at the larger after-school program that's on the Coverly campus. So they did get it, but I'm not sure how well it was distributed, but they did have the flyer.
Okay. I mean, I'm assuming not too many kids dying to fill out a survey. But it would be interesting.
I was thinking more the parents, but yes, I hear you.
Right. I know the schools do send, kids surveys too. But anyway, something that maybe we can explore to try to get more responses. That would be interesting. And being Brazilian myself, I know how hard it is to get your kids. I mean, we used to drive to San Francisco for the kids to take Portuguese lessons. That was so hard. And then eventually it stopped. So I totally feel the pain, and we don't even have a Brazilian community in town. So it's really, just me trying to get the kids to connect to their Brazilian heritage. So I totally understand that feeling of trying to pass it on. So thank you so much for those comments.
Commissioner Clausen?
First off, this is just absolutely incredible work. Thank you so much. Like, this is, I think this is going to be make a really big impact, and I think highlighted so many voices that need to be heard. Sorry if I missed this, but can we pull data from California Healthy Kids surveys that do survey our younger students on their experiences of racism? That's one thing I wanted to suggest. Sorry if that's already been mentioned. The other thing I did want to mention, the Junior League of San Francisco has done some amazing work on social isolation, and the two most isolated groups we see in the Bay Area are seniors and children. And there's, I think, just a really great, one thing that's been brought up is really great opportunities to connect both of those populations and help build that connection and that cultural learning. Also, if anyone in the audience or here has a pair of sunglasses, I'm recovering from an injury and the lights are making me really dizzy, and that would be extremely helpful.
All right, look at that. Thank you so much. Commissioner Stimler.
Thanks to folks who provided public comments. And of course, thank you so much to the people who did fill out the survey. Of course, we always want more. We would love to hear from everyone if possible. But I also, as a professional social scientist, know that survey response rates are something that you have to work on over time. And hopefully by giving the survey, sharing the results back with the community, and then showing the folks who bothered to give us their feedback that we do take it seriously, that we do follow up, that we do take action on their feedback. That's sort of the way that people learn, oh, when we speak up in Palo Alto, we get heard and action gets taken. And so I hope that this does demonstrate to folks the value of speaking up and contributing to both these community surveys, to providing public comment, because we really do value so much of the diverse voices we have in our community. This project for me was actually quite personal. I am a wife and a mother of South Asian Palo Alto residents, so I know very personally the challenges of being multicultural and raising a multicultural family. So it's really great to hear. First of all, it was great for me to confirm that this is, in many cases, a great place to raise a family like mine. And it was also troubling to hear that's still persistent, even in such a privileged and diverse community, that racism and discrimination persists, that there is always more work to be done. And so thank you to those in the community who are working to address those needs.
Thank you. So I think listening sessions are always, is this an action item or discussion?
It's a discussion.
Okay. So we'll put it as action item next time. I think we should look at what next steps look like beyond the report. I think Andrew gave us some really good pieces. Also being an immigrant, understanding that being first gen, 1.5, second gen, third gen, what that looks like as cultural and lived experience becomes very different. So even though people might look the same and say they're from the same place, how they inhabit the world is very different. So I think that would be very interesting. I also think what we heard from or folks in the Southeast Asian around caste is something that I think we should also roll into this research. And Commissioner Causey, who does that report? Is that the school district that fund?
So the school district actually, I mean, when I used to be involved more with the school district, they administer the test, and it's kind of like it's like certain grades within it. So I can check with it if they did it. At one point, they weren't administering it as often. So do you know something different, Commissioner Causey?
It's administered every, I don't remember how many years it's administered, and they specifically look at 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade are the ones that they study. And I believe they administer it, I want to say, I think it's annually, but I might be wrong.
So basically the grades before you move to a big transition?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. I think we have a lot there, but I would love for whoever's chair next year to be able to bring something to the committee, bring something to City Council with this depth, because I think the work you guys have done is absolutely phenomenal. Anyone else? Oh, wait. Since this is slightly different, we do not usually allow this, but since this is about hearing lived experiences, there's somebody online, so I'm going to allow them to speak if they're speaking about their lived experience. If it's another comment, I can't do it, but if it's a lived experience comment, we can do it.
Okay, so Eileen, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. It is actually about my lived experience. I'm a second generation Korean Canadian American. I grew up in Canada. So, I faced racism quite a bit and have a very thick skin regarding, in terms of racism. But there were a few times living in Palo Alto. We've lived here since our babies were born, and my oldest is now 15. I've had some racist experiences that were so bad, even with my thick skin in Palo Alto, that I went home and cried. And I'll share a few with you. A month ago, this one didn't make me cry, but it kind of tells you that racism is still living and palpable in Palo Alto. My mom and I, she's visiting from Canada. We're outside in our front garden of our home. We live in downtown Palo Alto. And she and I were speaking. It was like on a Saturday morning, like 8 a.m. in Korean, because Korean is a first language. And an elderly person was walking by, and instead of saying hello, like usually what they would normally do, I guess he didn't appreciate us speaking Korean. And he goes, "I could hear you all the way down there." And I said, I was going to say, "Oh, yeah." And then I did. I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Okay, well, good morning." And then the moment passed. So that kind of told you, speaking outside of English is not really favored. But then when my children, I think when my oldest was around grade 3, we were looking for a second home to purchase in Palo Alto, and the homes were going multiple bid. And I thought, you know what, it's a lot easier just to rent. I found a lovely bungalow in Pahrc being shown by a white real estate agent. And we had made an appointment and we went to see it, and it was around $4,000. We had great credit history. We already had a home in Palo Alto, great jobs, nothing wrong for us to disqualify us from getting this rental. We stood outside and she had an Australian couple with kids the exact same age and gender as ours inside. And she made us stop at the front door. She said, "Stop, don't come in." And she made us waited about 3 to 4 minutes. And then my young kids kind of start to kind of meander into the lobby. And she kind of rolled her eyes and she goes, "Oh, come in, your kids are already in." And anyways, and then she goes, "You have an appointment?" And I said, "Yes, I do. My name is Eileen Kim." She goes, "Oh, I see." And by then she had made us wait quite a bit beyond the appointment time. And then as I'm wandering through, she starts trailing me room to room to room. So I kind of turned to her because, I can speak up for myself. And I said to her, "Don't worry, I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to take anything." And she goes, "Well, I made a promise to the tenants that nothing would be stolen," which kind of was jarring because she was implying that I would steal. And then she continued to do this, and I just continued to ignore her behavior. And then we were out in the living room, and I said, because I myself am a small owner, landlord, property owner with rentals, I said to her, "We have great credit history, my blah, blah, blah." And I said, "What is the next steps to get this rental?" And she goes, "Oh, just email me." Then the Australian couple, which is like literally 3 feet away from me in the living room, she walks over to them. She goes, "Are you guys interested in getting this rental? Would you like the application form?" At which point I left with my kids. I went home and cried. So that's a negative lived experience. It was so harsh, I didn't even bother applying. But, when the real estate agent is white, that is sometimes some of the things that happen. My kids are half East Indian, half Korean, and they look mixed. And I got to tell you, my son, who's 13 years old, said to me, "Mom, I've never had a racist experience or racism. I've never experienced it in Palo Alto." So that also speaks to the amazing Cornerstone project that the schools in Palo Alto run. But I think as the kids grow older and they interact with the greater adult population, the older generation, there needs to be more work done because in the adult set, there is very much unsaid, palpable racism. And sometimes the racism is obvious, like they follow you from room to room, making you feel like an inferior citizen. And sometimes you are just invisible. Like I've gone to a pizza store and they will just ignore me. And then when a white person comes in, they'll come and serve them. And the white person will say, "Oh, she was here first," and they'll still continue to ignore me. Sometimes racism comes in many forms, but it's very much alive and present in Palo Alto.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more hand up. Then Mosey, go ahead, please. You need to unmute on your.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Oh, yes, as someone who does surveys on discrimination, I loved this survey. And it really also speaks to my experience being in Palo Alto, because I know that in my time as being a fellow on campus, I've had discriminatory experiences, especially because I am darker as a darker South Asian. And I at that intersection where I experienced both caste and racism at the same time. So when I've given talks or I've done workshops around DEI work, I've had people write insulting comments. For example, there was one time where I was speaking and someone used term blackie to refer to me. They also said I was making things up. There was like horrific kind of other sort of insults and slurs that kind of used. And I'm giving a professional talk in my workplace where I'm doing research on caste discrimination, and that definitely comes out quite a bit. And then I've experienced similar discriminatory experiences as a woman of color in various kind of settings in terms of rental discrimination and restaurants as well. But I did want to say that one thing in terms of the survey design, if this survey ever comes up again, is, I saw that the breakdown was around ethnicity, and I think there was a missed opportunity around using the term Asian Indian versus South Asian, or breaking down in terms of the multiple ethnicities within the South Asian context, because there are a lot of Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, because of the diversity of Stanford's community, of those families that are there. So if the purpose of the survey is to really drill down on ethnicity, I would provide those conduits to try to get a little bit more detailed information. And that intersection with religion is also really important, because one experience I had also in Palo Alto was right after 9/11, and I was on public transit. And I remember, anyone that looked Muslim adjacent was targeted, and people called me a sand, Nigger, and that's a very fairly common thing that happens to turban wearing Sikh community members or anyone that they think is Muslim or Muslim adjacent. And I think that category of anti-Asian hate, I think, isn't quite captured in this, but it is definitely anti-Asian hate. And one collaborator I think that could be really great for this, for the city, is the Stop AAPI Hate Coalition. They work with municipal and state bodies around the question of anti-Asian hate, and they run one of the largest anti-Asian hotlines in the state. And they're pretty incredible, and we've worked with them pretty extensively to think about caste, and they were one of the supporters of SB 43 as well. But just wanted to flag that and really thank the city for being so forward about representation, because part of stopping the violence is us being present, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Phenomenal point about splitting up the Southeast Asian community. I really like that, and a religious piece also. So we're so grateful to each person that takes time to participate. Yes. That took time to participate in civic activities. One of the critical things that I want to encourage communities is changes happen in local government, and participating in local government is how things happen. It can be long, it can be drawn out, it can be boring, it can be frustrating, it can be late. But if communities but participating and speaking and sharing your voice in these spaces is how changes start to happen. And I'm grateful to see the level of interaction, the level of survey response, the honesty and transparencies of the stories tonight. So I am grateful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, commissioners, subcommittee that worked on it. Yes, Vice Chair. Did you want to say it?
I just want to make a comment.
No, you go.
No, I just wanted to make sure to give extra thanks to Commissioner Stimler, who really went above and beyond helping us she created the PowerPoint and digging into the results. She came in late to our ad hoc, but was an incredible help. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it's good to know for the future.
You just got recruited about 5 things. That was a recruitment pitch, right?
No good deed goes unpunished.
All right. We are moving on to our second item of tonight. We're doing Older Adults Learning Series presentation by Alta Housing, La Comida, Linton Garden, Oshman Jewish Community Center, Second Harvest Food Bank, Social Service Agencies of Santa Clara County. And Commissioner Stimler, did you do any other work besides commission work this month? So we'll turn this over to Commissioner Stimler.
Don't tell my boss. Yes. So huge shout out to Commissioner Kraus, who wasn't able to make it tonight, but she has been my partner in crime in putting together this listening session. Huge shout out as well to all of the folks that are here tonight. I'm so excited to hear from you all, because you are out there day to day in the community working with our elderly Palo Alto residents. So I think that's going to be a very fascinating conversation. Commissioner Kraus was going to do the intro, but she couldn't make it, so she forwarded this intro to me. So I'm just going to read her words because they're actually pretty good. So she says, in the discussion this evening about senior services in the city of Palo Alto, clearly the numbers tell the story of a rapidly growing segment of the community with specific needs. Please realize that this is not the first time these discussions have occurred in the city or the Human Relations Commission, and it is part of an ongoing dialogue. In 2022, the problem was stated that senior services have been deprioritized by many funders at a time when seniors are the fastest growing segment of our population. According to the US Census, the US population, the percent of US citizens who are over the age of 65 was 16 point, sorry, let me rewind that. In 2010, 16.4% of Palo Alto was over the age of 65. In 2022, it was 24.7%. So that's a pretty huge increase. The comparison was that for the nation was 17.3%. So we've actually seen that in Palo Alto, there is a larger population of people over the age of 65. And in Palo Alto, that number is growing more quickly than it is even at the national level. As a result, there is a growing demand for senior services. Food and specifically housing have not kept up pace with the growth of these populations. And it's compounded by recent economic challenges, recruiting and retaining staff in the current job market, increases in inflation that impact people who are on fixed incomes. And there are gaps that are being created in the social net services, the safety net services that are critical to support aging in place. And as a result, the Palo Alto population is both older than the nation and is growing more quickly. And conclusively, the city will need to make these issues more of a priority. So again, hearing from you all is sort of the first step because you are the folks who are there listening, interacting daily and providing these services. So we welcome you. We have, we have Nancy Cope here to speak from La Comida. The JCC is represented by Michelle Rosengaus. The Linton Gardens and Frenchport communities, is Pamela here?
She's online, as is Stephanie from Alta Housing.
Okay, great. And Alex Navarro?
Yes, she is. She's Second Harvest, Silicon Valley. Yes.
Great, fantastic. Great. Well, welcome everybody, those who are both I'm looking at and those who are online. It's great to have you here. The guidelines for this conversation are that we'll each be given 5 minutes, which I know is not a long time, but hopefully you can really stick to the points. Just tell us briefly the organization you represent, one or two of the emerging needs of Palo Alto's elderly, as well as one or two things that Palo Alto could do to help address those needs. And that will be followed up by 20 minutes of discussion.
So Commissioner Stimler, could you just let them know who you'd like to go first, and maybe you can go one by one?
Staff, Commissioner?
Yes, Chair.
Was there a specific prompt? What was the specific prompt again given to them?
Oh, yes, sorry. The specific prompt is just to state quickly whom they represent, one or two of the emerging needs of Palo Alto's elderly, and one or two things that Palo Alto could do to help address those needs.
How many minutes do they have?
5 minutes.
How many people?
1, 2.
The social service agency is not here. That
That's right.
staff member was ill.
Yeah, so we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folks. Is that right? Yeah.
So let's split up the social services agency time and give them 7 each. So they have more time
All right,
to
you can
talk.
have a couple extra minutes.
I know it doesn't equal 5, but you all sat here and
Yes.
and you're away from your family and you care about your cause. So I don't want to rush your statements because we want to hear your voice.
If you could just call them,
Oh,
it's
sure.
easier to know
I'll
who to
just
go
start
first.
with my list here. So do we want to start with Nancy from La Comida? All right.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak about La Comida, the organization that I represent. La Comida was founded and incorporated in 1972 by the Rotary Club of Palo Alto as the first lunch program for older adults in the county. 2 years later, in 1974, La Comida received a federal grant through the Older Americans Act to grow their operations. We became the first congregate senior nutrition program in Santa Clara County to manage its program under the auspices of the Council on Aging. Now, 51 years later, which is amazing, we've served over 77,600 lunches last year, the most in our history, revealing the unmet needs uncovered by the pandemic and the growing population. La Comida's service is of particular importance to low-income seniors who may not be able to afford more than the requested $3 voluntary donation. Approximately 45% of seniors served by La Comida are at or below the federal poverty level, and 59% are 75 years or older. About half of La Comida seniors say they usually eat alone. La Comida is a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving Palo Alto area seniors a delicious, warm, sit-down meal each weekday, providing a nurturing environment in which they can socialize and build friendships, contributing to their inclusion and sense of belonging. La Comida is where friends and food meet. These goals address not only nutritional needs, which are all the more important in the elderly population in order to avoid illness, but also the growing need to address mental health, where isolation and loneliness are key factors. I invite you to read the stories of La Comida diners on our website. They're really very, very nice. And you can learn about personal stories and the benefits they receive from participating in our senior nutrition program. Regarding the emerging needs of Palo Alto's elderly that you asked me to respond to, well, Palo Alto's senior population comprises approximately 24%, as you said, of the total resident population. From 2010 to 2060, it's projected that the number of seniors 60 years and over will increase by 204%. While elderly that are 85 years and older will increase by 606%. That said, within the scope of La Comida, the top emerging needs are: 1, nutrition to avoid illness and the cost of treatment to bring them back to good health, taking into consideration the possible difficulty of shopping and preparing their own meals. And 2, addressing mental health needs facing seniors by addressing isolation and loneliness through socialization during mealtime. La Comida strives to address these critical needs for Palo Alto seniors: nutrition and socialization and access to nutritional and other information that is important to their well-being. Our daily lunches directly addresses nutritional requirements, providing balanced meals, lower in sodium than most restaurants. And our varied menus are overseen by county dietitians and state regulations. In order to fully address the socialization and information access, an indoor space is needed where seniors can come together for congregate dining, to enjoy and participate in entertainment, listen to speakers who can address any topic, and any other form of enjoyment that we could possibly provide them. I particularly like music. So for them, La Comida currently has a space in South Palo Alto at Stevenson House, but we have not had a facility in downtown Palo Alto for 3 years now. Currently, we're serving about 100 seniors a day in hallways and a tent space that is borrowed from Avenidas on Bryant Street. This is in addition to the 150 a day being served at the Stevenson House. So what's happening is that the tent at Avenidas will not really be suitable for use during inclement weather. So a downtown space is needed where we can serve, entertain, and inform our North Palo Alto seniors in a comfortable setting together in one room. So that's your third question. What can Palo Alto do to help address the needs? Here's my ask. Palo Alto could provide indoor space in the downtown area for the senior nutrition program operated by La Comida. La Comida is seeking a permanent location from which it can serve meals and provide communal experiences for many years. Food will continue to be prepared at the Stevenson House Kitchen and delivered to our downtown dining location. But we need adequate dining space to enable us to improve our communal programs, including entertainment, music, lectures, learning, etc. With the entire group participating and not like divided up in different areas. There are currently 21 senior nutrition sites in Santa Clara County, located in city-owned community centers or senior centers. Most cities provide the buildings and the staff to run the senior nutrition program. Every one of these sites allows seating for at least 70 participants. La Comida is an essential part of keeping Palo Alto an age-friendly place to live. Please help address our need for a permanent location to address some of the elderly population's essential needs in downtown Palo Alto. And finally, regarding a potential neighborhood Meals on Wheels, the city could help to facilitate a partnership and financial support for transportation between La Comida and a homebound delivery provider to supply daily fresh lunches to seniors who are frail and homebound and unable to drive, purchase, or prepare meals, or those who may be recovering from getting out of the hospital. And that's all.
Wonderful, thank you. Next, Michelle, please share with us, and just as a reminder, it's the organization, 1 or 2 emerging needs, and then 1 or 2 things the city could do.
I'm Michelle Rosengaus. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
I'm Michelle Rosengaus. I am Senior Manager of Adult Programs at the Jewish Community Center in Palo Alto. And we are a cultural center. The campus has been open now for 13 years, amazingly enough. And I've been working for the JCC for 15 years. Our center is open to everyone. There is no membership required. The only membership, of course, is if you use a fitness center. And it's multi-generational. We have programs from birth to seniors. And they're staff, about 320 staff on campus. And we get about 16,000 visits per week. So an incredible cultural space for the city. I run daytime programs for seniors for the JCC. I try to keep all the programs affordable. No one is denied for an ability to pay, and we do have scholarships if we know that people cannot afford the programs. I get seniors all the way from Los Gatos to Burlingame, so huge area. And I also do outreach to local senior centers so that they can bring their residents to our programs. And among my programs, I have a really nice monthly concert called Music in the Afternoon. I get about 140 seniors right now, and I bring top-notch musicians from the Bay Area. Our first one in September was a performance by the Lamplighters, and the one that just passed was a flamenco concert. And tickets are only $15 for something like this if they purchase them at least a week before. And coming up will be 8 musician ensemble on tango, and then we have a 3-person ensemble doing Middle Eastern music. And after the concerts, we provide free beverages and snacks to encourage the seniors to stay and mingle and socialize again. Then I do daytime excursions to Broadway shows in the Bay Area, museums, whatever big things are going on. I rent a charter bus. I take 55 seniors on each one of these trips. Coming up, I have a visit to the USS Hornet, and then Chabot Center, and the Botticelli exhibit at the Legion of Honor. I also like to encourage groups because I feel that's the way the seniors get to know each other and feel they're part of something. I have a group going to the San Francisco Symphony for 6 matinee concerts. That's about 45 people. And then I have a group going to the San Francisco Ballet for 3 matinees. Last year I did the opera, San Francisco Opera, and the Carmel Bach Festival, 3 days and 2 nights. Aside from that, I have programs on Zoom. I have paired up with a lady starting in the pandemic for Wellness Wednesday. Every 2 weeks, she provides a webinar on a very important health topics related for seniors. It's free, and she brings amazing speakers. I don't know how she gets them from all over the United States. It's free service. People just have to register and they will actually get the recording afterwards that they can watch whenever they want. And then she sends extra resources. So an amazing, amazing thing she does for our community. And then we have formed a JCC Partner Alliance in the US ever since the pandemic. It's run out of the Marin JCC. And they have amazing programs on Zoom, virtual travel with local guides in different countries, cultural projects, lectures on opera, on music, and live performances on Zoom, although there is a charge for those, but also very affordable. So the seniors that I serve are ages 60 to 98. I actually, on my buses, I have 98-year-olds. They're pretty amazing, you know. And what do I see in these seniors? A lot of them have moved into the area to be next to their family. So they get here and they don't know anybody. They're completely isolated. So we try to bring them in and be part of the community. I have a lot of widows and widowers who are in shock after losing a spouse. So we slowly try to get them back and be part of our programs. And I would say in the last 6 months, there's a huge senior community of Russian speakers. And we have Russian programs on campus, but they have started to come to also all of my senior programs. So what do I see for emerging needs? I think seniors need to get out. They need to get out. They need to socialize, feel part of the community, and to see the change in them when they're so happy to see people and get to be part of these amazing cultural, really high-level cultural programs. But they need transportation. They have many of them. They can't drive anymore. They don't have a way to get to the campus. And how the city can help. Ever since the JCC was under construction, I kept trying to talk to the council about providing the shuttle, making the shuttle routes stop at the JCC, since it's such a great destination. Never made it, though, even through the years now, there's no shuttle. But think about providing transportation for seniors to come to the JCC and participate. And in my programs and all my trips, my biggest expense is transportation. I have to charter private buses, 56-passenger buses with the restroom on board in case I get stuck on the highway for hours. And it's hugely expensive. It's worse than the tickets. So perhaps a little bit of help on that. And scholarships so that we can provide services, even lower prices for more seniors.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle. You all are making being an elderly person in Palo Alto sound like way too much fun. I can go have lunch at La Comida, go see some cultural events at the JCC. Obviously, this is a community that's growing and does have specific needs, but so far I just wanted to say thank you for sharing about all the hard work that your organizations do and the wonderful services you do provide. So just so you know that the order for the last three speakers will be Pamela, Alex, and then Stephanie. So we'll hear next from Pamela from Linton Gardens and Front Porch Communities.
Hello, my name is Pamela, and I am a Resident Services Coordinator at Linton Gardens. Linton Gardens is a low-income residential facility for seniors. We're located right in the downtown area of Palo Alto, right off of University, and then we have another smaller building that's a couple blocks over in the residential area off of Everett. So I got together with a bunch of our residents just to find out what they thought was important to them that the city could offer. And one thing that came up was safety. A couple years ago, we had a resident that was walking down Linton Avenue and was struck by a car, and she ended up passing away. And so because we're right on Linton and Middlefield, there's a lot of heavy traffic that's coming into the city and going out of the city in that area. And our residents have expressed that they feel very unsafe in that part of walking around their neighborhood, walking around our campus. I'm not quite sure how you would fix that situation, but if there is some way to implement more safety and more for the cars that are coming through there, because it's such a heavy traffic area. The second thing also has to do with safety, and that because of the congestion from the traffic, the cyclists that ride through the city are riding on the sidewalks. And I've had several residents that have come to me and said that they have had incidents with cyclists where they've been kind of knocked over by cyclists that are riding on the sidewalks because they can't ride on the streets because the streets are so impacted. And so that was something that they felt very strongly about. The other thing was,
Pamela, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what the last thing you heard was, but so as a low income building that's subsidized by HUD, we are purposely put into places where seniors can walk to different things that they want to walk to, and that they can get services and medical appointments that are close to where they live as a way to help them age in place. They have expressed that they've seen the videos of incidents happening at the Apple store, and they've been approached by people just walking up and down University, especially in the evening hours. And they would like to see more police officers on foot patrol as a way to help them feel more safe. That they know that there's somebody out there that is more comforting to them when they're walking alone. Because we do have quite a few that like to walk from Linton Gardens down to Whole Foods and back, which is amazing because they're in their 80s and 90s and are walking, to get their groceries. So that was the second issue, which is transportation. We would love to see a free shuttle again in the city of Palo Alto to get our residents to where they need to be. A lot of our residents do go to La Comida and pick up meals. Our residents would love to get to Cubberley, to the Asian classes that they have there. I should mention that we do have about 380 residents, and about 85% of them are Chinese speaking residents. So getting them out there to places where people speak the language would be great as well. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you so much. Next up, we have Alex. Are you online? There you are. Great.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thanks for having me, and so good to listen into everything. I feel like the theme today or this evening has been so much about community and connection and understanding culture. So I really appreciate hearing everybody's presentation even for this. And nice to see some of my partners here that we partner with. So my name is Alex. I am the Director of Community Nutrition for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. For those that don't know, Second Harvest or the Food Bank, we are a food bank that leave the community to ensure that everyone who needs a healthy meal can get one. And although we live in a very affluent area in the Bay Area, there's still such a need. And a little bit of those numbers on those needs, 1 of 6 people in both San Mateo and Santa Clara County are receiving food from Second Harvest. And 1 in 4 are at risk of food and nutrition insecurity. Currently, we are still seeing very high numbers that we are serving every month. These are peak numbers, which were the same numbers that we were serving peak pandemic, which is about 500,000 people that we serve a month. 120,000 of them are seniors, and I'm speaking about our two communities, San Mateo and Santa Clara County. But this is also very prevalent in Palo Alto. We have about 9 food distributions here in Palo Alto. 3 of them are what we call our free grocery programs, which primarily serve our seniors. And we partner with some agencies. I see some of our agencies here, like La Comida, the Jewish Community Center, Children's Services, St. Andrews, Downtown Street Team, and South Palo Alto Food Closet. We also have a wonderful homebound program, so free delivery for any of those seniors that are homebound that can't come to our food distributions. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit around the community connection piece, because that's a piece that's very near and dear to my department that I oversee. And what we are seeing as we engage out with seniors, and what we're seeing is there's a need for connection, and there's a very deep need for wanting to be part of conversations and to learn and to really still engage. And I feel like that's really important work. And I'm seeing and hearing the message and the theme that, this is happening. And I love that, because I came into this meeting kind of thinking like, is that happening? Because that is what I am seeing. So I do think that, I'm hearing really wonderful work, but what I'm seeing out is they're thriving for some type of community connection, especially coming out of COVID and coming out of this isolation. So what we want to do is we want to go out back into the community, particularly where our low income community is of seniors that receive food from the food bank, and really engage deeper with them and have conversations with them around food and culture, and get them excited about, first and foremost, we want to get them excited about some of the food that they are receiving, and want them to, feel good about going back into the kitchen and knowing how to prepare these foods. I also, a really important piece is understanding the food need to best provide culturally relevant foods to our neighbors. So that's something that is a true learning on our end, that I would love to be able to provide food to these 9 food distributions that we have that really tailor to the food needs and the food preferences of our neighbors. We know that food connects people and brings you joy, but it's also really a piece of your identity and your traditional foodways. And especially if you've a senior that's migrated here and you've lost touch of your culture. Sometimes, we know, food, religion, family connections, that kind of ties you back with culture. So part of my work this year and this next year is really understanding the community's needs and what that means around food preferences. So I'm excited about that. And then something that Palo Alto can do, I'm part of a board member at at a large nonprofit in Daly City. They also have some wonderful senior programs, and they recently talked about providing tablets for seniors. It was a grant that they received. And I kind of asked, like, why tablets for seniors, and it went back to the same thing about the connection piece. It's like, there needs to be another form of connection, right? Yes, there's the outside and going to wonderful community centers and hopefully seeing loved ones, but some won't be able to be out with their loved ones. So having a tablet and teaching them how to use a tablet, I thought that was fascinating. And I really love that. Like, yeah, that's great. I think about my elderly parents who, they're on social media to be able to, speak to their families from other countries, or even to be, stay informed with the news, or for their health stuff also. So really great. I think that's one other piece I wanted to know about how Palo Alto can help is really this health equity piece, because my work does revolve around promoting health and wellness for our community members. So what are we doing around needs assessments, learning what the needs are? How do we show up with a health equity lens and talk about specific topics such as social determinants of health? So how do we address that so our community could be living happy and thriving and showing up as their best self? That's what I have. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Alex. There's definitely some common themes we're hearing so far, and I think you tied many of them together. So thank you for that. Last but certainly not least, Stephanie, For joining us from Alta Housing.
Hi, hello, my name is Stephanie Scheip. I'm the Vice President with Alta Housing. And you mentioned it right before I started. There are a lot of tying themes. I see the notes that I took prior to joining this meeting, and I feel like so many people have already, breathed air into all of them. So really quickly, Alta Housing, we've been in Palo Alto for the past 70 years. We were previously known as Palo Alto Housing. And so we provide affordable housing to our residents in the community within the city of Palo Alto and the surrounding areas. So I will say, one of the top, and it's probably year after year after year, as we live in, one of the most expensive places to live in the entire United States. And as Mary Kate had shared right at the very beginning of this, our senior population is growing. Obviously, we live in high income Silicon Valley. And so one of the top, and I don't know if it's emerging because it's just been persistent, need of affordable housing, specifically geared towards seniors. I know that we have very lengthy wait lists for a lot of our communities, affordable communities that we have within the city of Palo Alto. And there's just not enough housing for that demand for people, with that are living off of Social Security, potentially retirement and Social Security. It starts to very much limit as that population starts to age. And so I will say one of the items that we'd be bringing here, which I'm sure that you've heard before, is obviously the need for affordable housing within the city of Palo Alto. And then the other item I think that everybody has spoken to is isolation. And that is something that we've seen obviously come out, really became prevalent during COVID. And I think that we're still getting through it. We're still trying to get our seniors engaged. We know that when people are engaged, they stay healthy, they stay connected. But there is a challenge of trying to get them to programs, whether it be due to transportation, whether it be due to language barriers, or those that have experienced trauma, such as loss of a loved one or relocation from another country, and they don't know anybody around. Getting them involved, trying to take them out of isolation and getting them connected as much as possible. I know our resident services director, Kate Young, works really closely with my staff and her staff to try and bring the seniors out and active within the community, same within the city of Palo Alto, doing, art projects, but anything to bring them out, get them to their cultural centers. They find, a great sense of community there as well. So it is something that I think is bigger now than that we had seen previously. And so continued focus on, increased services and being able to bring communities together. As well as transportation, so we can get, our residents and our community members to the locations that they need in order to get food, make community, make those connections, is a top priority. There are a few others, but I would say that those are the top.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I think that's all the speakers, right? Great. Thank you again to all the speakers who came. I think can now open it up for discussion. Chair, do you want to?
We got to do two things in discussion.
Okay, yes. I'll hand it to the chair to take care of the procedures.
Council member, and then we'll do public comment, and then we'll do discussion. You got to do those two pieces. Thank you.
Well, I just want to express my gratitude to the people who spoke tonight from La Comida, JCC, Lytton Gardens, Second Harvest, and Alta Housing. Really wonderful to hear, as Commissioner Stimler put it, it sounds pretty cool or fun or lovely to be a senior in Palo Alto. Despite the challenges, there are plenty of good things happening, and yet there are some systemic challenges that you've really shone a light on tonight. So I'm listening, and it will do my part to take these concepts forward to council, and just really grateful for the service that each one of you are offering to our growing population of seniors here in Palo Alto.
Staff, do we have any public comment?
I don't see any raised hands, Chair.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Stemler.
Avenidas is here. Do they have anything they'd like to add to the conversation?
My name is Christina Lugo. I'm the Vice President of Programs at Avenidas and so impressed by some of the other senior services provided in this area. We continue to grow. One of the themes that I heard, Minka already got an email from me this week, transportation is so huge for seniors. They are potentially isolated at home. We have a lot of solo agers that are not getting their healthcare needs, their social needs met. So at Avenidas, I think our CEO presented last month. We have a variety of services. One of those is transportation, but it's definitely an underfunded a service that we need some support in expanding potentially here in Palo Alto. So thank you for your continued support of Avenidas.
Great, thank you. Is there one more thing we need to do before discussion? That's it? That's it? Okay, great. Well, then with that, I think we can open it up to discussion among the commissioners. Shall we just do down the line? Commissioner Shea, do you have any questions or comments?
Just again, wanted to express my appreciation for all the groups that presented this evening. There's just a variety of needs and specialized considerations for certain populations, and just I'm relatively new to learning about the aging services here in Palo Alto, and just very impressed with the diversity of offerings and services. So I look forward to learning more.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Stemler and Commissioner Krause, for putting this together. Phenomenal. And thank you all for the late hours and the efforts and the shoestring budgets to make services happen for people. We are very appreciative of the work you do. A few thoughts. As we go into our needs assessment, we have an RFQ out for our community stuff. Having the people that were here really be part of that piece, I think, would be good. As we go back to council and talk about budgeting for his wrap, really talking about this highlighted need across 5 or 6 agencies of transportation. I know that it's $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 to rent a bus for one event. It costs money for staff and maintenance to do shuttles, and that's critical. I have questions around mental health. How are your organizations dealing with seniors, being lonely? Another thing I see in a lot of seniors is dealing with grief and changes. How are we partnering with other mental health organizations for seniors? I don't know, so just asking. I need it.
Yeah. Thank you. We provide a variety of services at our Rose Kleiner Center, which is in Mountain View, that serves more frail older adults. We have a mental health professional on contract there. We also have Care Partners, which provides mental health mostly to the caregivers that are caring for a lot of the older adults that might need more services, as well as those older adults that are struggling. We do have a mental health emergency fund. So if someone's not able to access mental health services through their insurance, or it's not meeting their needs, we do have some funding available for that. And Medicare covers mental health services. And I think a lot of older adults don't know that, that they don't have to pay any additional funds. They just need their doctor to refer. So some of it might be community education that's needed.
Okay. And the last thing is, and this is me just thinking, I know City of Palo Alto is building this beautiful structure right by my house. It's a brand new police station, and they built a beautiful garage. And we have thousands of square feet that are going to be empty next door at some point, right? So why not make that the senior center?
Yeah.
I know. I'm not on city council. I'm just a commissioner that's here. But I think one of the critical things is how community spends money. We spent $100 million on safety in one of the safest communities in the world, and we don't have a senior center.
You have Avenida.
Building,
Yeah.
building. You said building, right?
We don't have.
They don't have. So if we can have space, that would be critical. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. That was mine. I'm sorry,
We can share
Avenidas.
the space.
We could share the space with you too. We just put everybody in there. Second Harvest, you want a spot? We got a spot for you too.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much to the speakers for coming and telling us about your agencies and what the emerging needs are. That's super helpful for the work that we do. And when we're looking at the grant, some of the grant work that we do, it's great to be able to visualize and not just, read the applications. First off, I wanted to say to Pamela from Linton Gardens that you should definitely fill out the survey that I mentioned earlier today. So it's Safe Streets for All. It's part of the safety action plan from the city. I think if you just Google, or Minka, could you send it to these agencies? Because I think it would be great for the seniors to fill out a survey for each senior. Because I know that there are questions about feeling safe downtown, walking and biking. And I think we need to hear from everybody in the city. And, the more survey results they get, the better it is. So I would try to get as many people to fill out the survey as possible, and start there with the transportation.
So Pamela, did you have a response to that? I see your hand up.
Yes, I do. I'm just wondering, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of this, but is that survey available in multiple languages?
I'd have to, Commissioner, sorry. Vice
No,
Chair.
I don't know. Go ahead, Minka.
We'll look at it while you all are talking.
Okay.
Thank you. And if it's not, Minka, do you think the city can translate it?
Google. I can be in touch with the transportation team, but let me look first.
Okay, thank you. So that's number one. Number two, maybe, I don't know, Michelle, this might be directed at you, but I know everybody's talking about transportation. Do any of the seniors use the Palo Alto link? I'm curious to see if they use it, because, they discontinued the shuttle service in 2020 and then the pandemic hit and they started this Palo Alto link program.
No, not that I know of.
Yeah.
I think it needs more publicity.
Thank you. I do see that apparently there's an app or a phone call. I'm not positive on how.
There's an app. I was actually with a senior citizen last night that uses it. I didn't know about it.
Okay.
And she showed me her app, and it tells you the distances and everything that they'll take you for free.
You can also call a phone number. So in that sense, it's easier to use for seniors than, say, Uber or Lyft, which can be complicated to use an app.
Thank you. So I think that there's any kind of movement to bring back the shuttle service, then I think maybe some of the members of city council might want to know, if people are using the Palo Alto link, how effective it is. Maybe the first step is to try to publicize it. I know that right now, I guess it's the only option. It's not free though. That's the other thing.
No, but for seniors, it's quite discounted. I think it's $1.25 per ride or something like that.
And how would they pay it if they call?
I happen to know a little bit about this. Is it all right if I respond?
Yes.
My mother is a senior and she uses the link sometimes and Lyft other times. The limitations of the link are it's only within the geographic boundary of Palo Alto, not including the hills. And yet it is extremely affordable. I do believe it is $1 or close to that for seniors. You set up an account and they would have your credit card in the system, same with Lyft or Uber. So when you place a phone call, they ask for your cell number or your phone number, and then they look you up that way and they have your credit card stored.
Thank you. I don't know if that's a barrier to enter or not, but it would be interesting to get some feedback on, you know, if there's some more publicity, if whether they would use it.
I send out an email to, I have a list of 3,000 seniors every 2 weeks to let them know what programs are coming up. I could send the information as part of my email if you send me the information and perhaps ask for some feedback.
Okay, that would be great.
And let's see where that goes.
Minka, could we send the information on the Palo Alto link too? Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Another idea around the same thing is with so many service providers here who have events or venues, maybe even having a learning moment where perhaps here's how to use a link. Maybe they could do it during a lunchtime at La Comida, or maybe they could do it as one of the educational programs at the JCC. I mean, yeah, maybe have you tried something like this? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
I think the link service just don't have the brochure in different languages.
Yeah.
And we can also highlight in our monthly e-newsletter at ACCC, Avenida Chinese Community Center, and also be displayed at our 3 locations in Avenidas. And we can also benefit with our resident. We reach out to close to 1,000 people for our monthly e-newsletter. It's a bilingual monthly e-newsletter. If you send it to ACCC, and we can share the information to our Palo Alto resident.
That would be wonderful.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I think that ties back to our some of the survey results that we do need to have brochures and surveys in different languages. And I know that that's some of the back. I know I got one person who responded about having the survey in a different language.
So Vice Chair, I don't see the survey in another language,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's not available. So I will be in touch with our transportation coordinator regarding that and the other ideas presented tonight. But I believe Pamela has her hand up again. Go ahead, Pamela.
I did, just really quick on the link. So another barrier, I do have a lot of residents that use the link, but another barrier again is that the call centers do not speak their language, so they're not able to use it. So if they could have a translator at the call center, that would be great too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Those are, oh, can Andrew come up? And
May I say some more? There's a lot of discussion here about translate from the survey to translate the survey questions and so on. I have to admit, first of all, that I did not fill out the survey, even after repeated requests from Pinky to fill it out. Okay, I did not fill out. And the reason is that when I start reading it, the English part makes sense, but the Chinese part doesn't even make sense. Okay, the translation. I mean, this is bad. I don't know who translated it, but it was really bad. And I can imagine a lot of the Chinese who actually got the survey, they don't know the English very well, and they look at the survey, they say, well, this is ridiculous. I don't even know what they're talking about. Okay? So I would suggest that if you do have multiple language translation for the surveys, make sure that at least they make sense.
Can it be a project in your class, Andrew?
I'm sorry?
Can it be a project in your class to make sure it makes sense?
What? I didn't catch it.
I said, next time we have a survey, can you vet it for us to make sure it makes sense?
Oh, boy. Pinky's very good at that.
He'll get back to you.
By the way, I just want to say that I'm the only volunteer within this group. They are staff, so I'm totally on volunteer time.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Causey?
The great thing about being on a great commission is that everybody basically asked all the questions that I was going to ask. And I just want to say thanks again. Amazing work. Gave just a really broad overview of the services needed in the community. I was going to ask about Palo Alto Link. I've been using it to get around. The limits are it does have limited hours. It is $3.50 for everyone and then $1 for certain populations. And like the app is still, they've been improving it, but it does have some glitches and it is like, it's not as fast as Uber or Lyft. So you might have to wait. There are like hours where all the cars are busy, but great overview. Everyone asked great questions.
The one thing I want to say, who asked about the tablets? I know they said they want to compute tablets for their.
It was
for their
Alex
system.
from Second Harvest.
It's Alex. I know there are companies that are giving significant grants out around digital divide. And I know that was part of the infrastructure bill that was passed last year. My church received from a local tech company about $200,000 to pay a staff employee and train seniors for, I think it was a 24-month period on how to use tablets, how to access all of the services, because what we were realizing were seniors would go to like doctors and all they have is a touch panel for them to use and they'd get very flustered. So there is a ton of grant money out there to cover, it's either on the topic of digital equity or digital divide. And they will give you funding to do teaching for what's the exact language? Underserved communities or communities that would be cut off from life services because of that.
Great, thank you. Are there any other lingering questions from the commission? All right, well, with that, oh, Michelle, yes, do you have something to add?
Yes. If you could send me the contact for everybody that participated tonight, I would love to introduce them to Sally Duplantier from Zing Life. She's the one that does these free webinars every 2 weeks on health-related issues for seniors. It's an amazing resource, and they could be shown for free in the screens while they're having lunch and learn. And so she touches on everything, and as professors from Stanford and I don't know, doctors that publish books on all kinds of topics. So I think she would love to be part of this.
Okay, thank you. Mika, is that something you can help with? Okay, great. Great, and then I'll just wrap this up by saying thank you again. I know it's such a trendy word to say that everything's so intersectional these days, but it's really quite incredible that all of our topics today really coincided from the public comments around caste and the issues that brings to the Indian and South Asian communities here in our community, to the conversation we had about the AHNPI community and how that reflected on the intergenerational challenges of our multicultural community. And then from there, moving into talking about aging within Palo Alto and even hearing about how there are cultural needs within the food banks to have culturally appropriate foods and the Russian groups that Michelle is helping to organize and all of the ways in which our communities and the diversity within them shape and form the ways in which we need to provide these services to our elderly as well, and the way in which these communities, all of the communities, the cultural communities have the older residents within them and the older residents have cultural differences within them. So it was really interesting to see the way that all of our topics tonight really aligned and built on each other. So thank you to everyone I think everyone stayed quite late tonight. So thank you all for contributing. Thank you for the work you do for our communities. And thank you to everyone who took our surveys, who provided feedback tonight, because as Chair Smith pointed out, this is really how we shape and change our communities, and it's through your input and your participation. So thank you all.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think we'll be done in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Depends on how long the commissioners talk and staff and the council members. No pressure. No pressure. We'll start with commissioner reports. Do we have any commissioner reports?
I just wanted to say that I attended the celebration that Mike's had for being able to stay in the community. Line was out the door. Very glad to see them packed, and also very excited to see our new dinosaur friends at the Junior Museum and Zoo.
Anyone else? I have one quick report. I had the distinct pleasure at the NAACP of Silicon Valley San Jose Gala to present with the legislature of the year for our branch, for our area is Councilmember Lithcott Haynes. So it was a pleasure to present that to her on Friday. That's my report. All right, Councilmember.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for presenting me with that award. I feel like I haven't done anything yet, but it certainly inspires me to try to live up to the NAACP's expectations. What I would like to report out on, first let me offer my gratitude. I love being the liaison from council to the HRC. Y'all are doing such important work at the level of staff and commissioners. Really enjoy being part of what you're up to. As you know, you recommended to council that we make a set of decisions about paid holidays and additional dates to recognize to advance race and equity. And we did meet on this and deliberate and come up with some decisions at our last meeting on October 2nd. And I want to relay to you with my gratitude that obviously you put a ton of work into that and we really appreciated it. And I'm looking now at our minutes to make sure I get this right when I reflect on the decisions we came to. So we received the recommendations. We directed staff to further review and refine the proposed standard framework and procedure for consideration of how the city will recognize events and individuals and celebrations. We directed staff to include consideration of Juneteenth as a paid holiday as part of the next round of labor contract negotiations, which will be soon. That motion, that item passed 4-3. There were 3 people opposed to that. And I'm delighted it passed. And I think in retrospect, some of us, myself included, could have done a better job of trying to ensure that people really understood what Juneteenth is. I think there's a lot of lack of information and misinformation. And it's one of those things I think people feel silly asking about if they don't know. So my hope is that it would have been 7-0 had we on council provided more, or staff provided more information about what Juneteenth is. In any event, that is moving forward 4-3. We directed staff to implement your recommendation to recognize Dolores Huerta Day and Cesar Chavez Day as independent dates of significance, but non-paid holidays. And we directed staff to remove Italian American Heritage from the second Monday in October, which had previously been designated as Indigenous Peoples Day and Italian Heritage Day. Vice Mayor Stone made eloquent arguments about why it is inappropriate to be celebrating Italian heritage as a substitute for Columbus Day when we're trying to move as a society away from recognizing the man who was responsible for so much genocide in on our continent. It is not appropriate to offer some substitute in trying to recognize the country he is ostensibly from. So that was big. And so those were our decisions. And again, appreciate all the work that went into making those recommendations to us. The work of the city moves slowly but deliberately. And I think we're all better for the work that you do and that you give us the opportunity to do as a council. Thank you.
Vice Chair Everly, you forgot to give a report.
On our council liaison has already given my report that I did present to, I feel like it was a million years ago, believe it or not. But yes, I did present our report to the council last Monday. So, and I think it was well received, and I'm happy with the decisions that they made, you know. We just had to, I mean, they took action on it. They didn't have to, so I'm very pleased that Juneteenth is going to be a paid holiday. Well, that it's going to be part of the negotiations, but hopefully it'll be a paid holiday for the city. Commissioner Causey and I also met to move forward with our Midtown project of walkability and checking out, you know, figuring out the businesses, what's happening there. I see there's also a neighborhood town hall meeting for Midtown this Sunday. So I'm planning on attending 1:30.
Where's it gonna be?
I think it's Mitchell Park.
Mitchell Park Community Center. I'm also planning on attending.
I think
Yes.
I'm attending that. I have an interest in that neighborhood.
Yes, yes. So looking at equity between South Palo Alto and North Palo Alto.
If I may say one
Yes.
more thing, thank you. Vice Chair Eberly, you did make an excellent presentation. And the one thing I didn't reflect on already is in deciding whether to add an additional paid holiday, there are a lot of concerns about the expense of that. And we were quoted approximately $735,000 a day is spent on staff. And so if you give people a paid holiday, the one argument is that the city is losing $735,000 a day or has to find those dollars. And in my view, neither is the case. It doesn't have to find the dollars. They're already there in salary. And it's not losing the dollars because I think the morale gained when people are offered a day off, particularly a day that's recognized nationally as a holiday. You know, we support good morale in the city among city staff when we offer a holiday that is widely recognized as being really an important a day of recognition for the United States. So these things are more complicated than they seem, and good arguments were made. But again, Juneteenth prevailed 4-3.
Thank you.
Staff?
Sure. A couple quick things. One, I already emailed the commission, but for the public to know, staff was going to bring the version of the safe parking ordinance to the HRC, but that now will be at a joint meeting of the Human Relations Commission and the Planning and Transportation Commission, October 25th at 5 p.m. in this room. So wanted to let you know that. And I also want to let you know because I think our public art staff does a great job, but right out in front, there is one of the public art pieces for code art. And a lot of them are just in the block. So if you're not too tired and you could take a walk around the block, or it's there the next 3 nights. But I think I should put my glasses back on. There are 7 public art pieces that are out there.
Yes, I'm planning on going to that too. I went last year and it was super fun. And it was great to see everybody out on the streets. You know, it felt like a whole different city. It was packed. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you. I think we've been here long enough. I won't hold you any longer. Everybody have a good week. Commissioners, I will see you halfway through the month and then I'll see you next month. We will do agenda planning and send out an agenda 1 week before. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.